Chapter 39. They spent the afternoon poring over the political science books in the bookstore. They were all written in Elven, and Alicia could not understand any of it. She hated that she was dependent on others to read it for her. Cedar had returned in time to finish eating breakfast with them. The men seemed to have decided to ignore each other and instead took turns translating pages for her. Lunch had come and gone, and Kenny had long since gotten bored and was sitting on the floor playing the board games with himself. One of the Elven games was a remake of a game made entirely out of rock pieces. Kenny was attempting to play it without using his hands. Alicia was looking at her notes, calling back Retta and Cedar when she needed their help answering a question or translating another page. She could tell that Retta was not very happy with her unwillingness to jump up and risk her son's life at his demand. Alicia knew that Retta had good intentions, but his intentions were mainly for the Elven world. Alicia planned to help, but her focus was on making sure her son made it through safely. To do that, she had to understand the Elven world better. During her time flipping through books, she caught glimpses of Retta and Cedar. They would look up at each other and lock eyes. They seemed to orbit around each other, as if they were afraid of being seen together, even though it was just the four of them in the store. Yet they seemed to be aware of each other at all times. When Kenny went to bed, it did not take long for the pretense to end. They started huddling in the corner, whispering. When they slipped away together to the bedroom, Alicia stayed with her books. At some point, she had fallen asleep at the table, her head cushioned by an open book. She woke to Cedar coming down the stairs, but she had a plan all laid out. It was not a perfect plan, and she was still worried about her son. The only problem was that Cedar and Retta were going to hate her. Before telling her plan to them, she needed to run it by her son. The two had always been a team, and if he was going to step into an adult role, she wanted him to have the first chance to veto everything that was about to happen. They moved into their shared bedroom, and Alicia let him look at her notes while explaining what she had in mind. They spoke quietly. They spread papers around them as they both laid down on their stomachs with their chins propped up on their bent arms. Alicia couldn't help grinning. It was so familiar, like they were back home having another family game night. "How will you handle all the people?" was the first concern that Kenny had. "What do you mean?" Alicia asked. "You don't like people. You said that leading a nation would mean lots of meetings and lots of talking with people. If you became my regent, you would be doing a lot of that until I was old enough to do it myself. It seems like it would make you very unhappy." "Here is a secret, kiddo. No one should enjoy being in power. If I start to enjoy it, then that is when you should start to worry. I have to hang on for the next 10 years. You will have to hang on for the rest of your life. Although you know I will still be at your side, ready to help you when you need it." "And we will have Cedar and Retta too." "Yes, hopefully we will have them also. I hope they understand." "We need them." "Yes, we need them. But remember that they do not need to know the whole plan right away. It is the only way that I can see it working." "I understand." The two walked down the stairs to the bottom floor, where Cedar and Retta waited for them. Alicia thought they might have walked in on something, as the two seemed to spring apart from each other. Their hair and shirts appeared to be in slight disarray. "We have a plan," Kenny announced. "Oh, please do tell," Retta said. He sat down at the table and faced them. Cedar stood behind him, as if guarding Retta from unknown harm. "Kenny will take the throne, and I will be his regent," Alicia said. "Finally, you have come to your senses," Retta said. "It is not possible," Cedar said at the same time. "You are a human. You lack any power, and you are not of royal blood." "There is precedent." Alicia flipped through her notes and handed them a page. "It has happened before that there was a younger king on the throne. His mother acted as his regent after the king and queen were both lost in some battle. She was not a queen, and she had very little magical ability of her own. Her son was the king's only known offspring. She was the king's concubine and not of noble birth. She ended up marrying the king's brother, who was next in line for the throne. The king's brother knew that his magic would not hold the throne, and some third cousin or something would probably overthrow him. By marrying, they solidified the throne. She ruled as regent until her son was of age, and then served as his advisor until he married. He was Kenny's great-great-great-grandfather, if I'm not mistaken." "There is no one left of royal blood that is strong enough to ensure such a position," Retta said. They do not need to be of royal blood, especially since no one is left to challenge Kenny's claim. If there were, we would let them have the throne. I have two choices. I can marry someone who has enough magic to protect Kenny's claim, or I can marry someone of the royal line who has a little magic. That could work. Retta turned around and looked at Sadar as he spoke. We have to do something, and if this is what she wants, then I'm all for it. Is there anyone left that would be willing to marry a human? Sadar asked him. We'll find someone, Retta said. If we do nothing, then we will be left with this king on the throne, and that's not an option. What if we fail? What if Kenny gets killed? We cannot go off on some half-cocked plan. Am I going to die? Kenny's eyes were wide and full of tears. Enough. Alicia stood up from her chair, her hands smashing the table. I've worked out a plan that you haven't even fully looked at. If you think it won't work, then we can revise it, but do not go traumatizing my son. I'm doing all of this to keep him safe. If I had my choice, we would go back to our old lives right now, where the biggest worry we had was making sure rent was paid on time. Alicia pulled out the outlined plan that she had developed and threw it on the table. Then she picked up her son, who was much too big for carrying, and went with him up the stairs. They stayed in the room all morning. After Alicia had calmed down Kenny's worry, they played games and explored. It wasn't until Kenny started complaining about being hungry that she ventured to go back downstairs, while Kenny stayed in the room. She walked as silently as she could, but soon realized that it did not matter. Both men were sitting at the table waiting for her. Did you read it over? Alicia asked. We did, Retta said. We should probably discuss some of the plan. We have some ideas on how it can go more smoothly. Are you on board? Alicia turned towards Sadar. Sadar looked back at her, his face impassive. She waited until the pause went on awkwardly, and he started to speak. I still have concerns. Do you have a better idea? No. The word was said grudgingly. However, this plan still needs work. I am blood sworn to the throne. I can do nothing to hurt the future of the in-between. I will not betray your son. There is also an obvious flaw. We do not know how to contact the king. Alicia slid into a seat at the table facing the two men. She gathered up the pages of her notes and picked up her pencil. Okay, let's make this work. As for how to contact the king, I was thinking that Retta's friend, the Count, could help us with that.